Hi, everybody. It's Candace, and we are live on Facebook with Keith Mercier and Patrick Wright of CBIZ Insurance. Hi, guys.
Hey there.
Hey, Candace, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Is that loud enough for you?
Yeah, you're good, but you're going to have to not talk at the same time.
No problem.
So
it's Keith's first time on being live, so he's a little nervous.
We'll be gentle. Well, I'm really, really excited to have this conversation with you today because I think we're going to have some very important, really great information for business owners when it comes to insuring themselves, protecting themselves, making sure that they have the correct things in place to make sure that their businesses are protected while they are trying to increase their bottom line. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
So first of all, I know you guys are coming from your brand new office. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're located and what you guys do, what your different roles are?
Absolutely. So thanks for having us, Candace. I really appreciate it. And so we're located downtown Sarasota on the corner of Orange and Main, which for folks that know Sarasota, it's the old Ellis Bank building. Where the University Club used to be many years ago. So we're on the 10th floor looking out towards the bay, and the views are spectacular. There's no question about it. It really is. But my role is the president of the West Coast of Florida for CBIZ Insurance Services. And Patrick is our executive vice president. We both do commercial and employee benefits. Our book of business is probably 60-40 or 50-50 when you middle market accounts mostly, and I don't know if you got anything to add to that, Pat, but
no, but that was good. We partner on our book, and as Keith said, we do both EB and employee benefits and commercial.
Awesome. And I know you guys work with companies all over the country, not just in Florida. You travel a lot. And I think a lot of people right now, business owners, are really wondering about COVID-19 and whether there's any insurance coverage for losses suffered during that. But I guess the first question is, how has the pandemic affected your clients?
Well, obviously it's been challenging for all of them. Some segments were more adversely affected than others. For instance, the hospitality industry, restaurants, bars, country clubs. I mean, they obviously took a very, very big hit. Retail, too, at the same time. Our book, thankfully for us, is really heavy in construction, manufacturing, and distribution. So we didn't see much of a downtick there, but in the other segments, certainly, we had to take down payrolls, sales for those companies in real time so that their premiums would drop because obviously their budgets were very adversely impacted by COVID-19. So we spent the first couple of months of the outbreak engaging our clients, actually helping a lot of prospective clients too, navigate how to properly adjust their exposures so they could save dollars in real time.
Wow. Yeah, and you mentioned travel. Obviously with the travel, we've not been able to do much travel. I think we've had one trip. We went to Denver not too long ago, and we have clients all over the country, as you said, and that's we've been doing a lot more of the Zoom stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know a lot of people are wondering whether there is any coverage for COVID-19 losses.
Correct. There are in segments, mostly workers' compensation, where insurance companies have taken on claims when workers have been, and it's been proven that they've been infected in the workplace. So yes, there, but in other lines of coverage, I go back to what everyone may remember and should remember, SARS. Yeah. So after the SARS outbreak, and in Canada was obviously very adversely impacted, same with the Far East. Insurance companies came out with virus exclusions, bacteria exclusions, superbug exclusions. on policies. So they didn't actuarially build in, premium for COVID-19 losses. They're specifically excluded under general liability, under a business interruption, so business income. So that delivering those messages to clients, even though we do talk about it, but when it happens, those were tough messages to deliver. There's no question about it. So you're going to see litigation, I think, on COVID-19 claims for years to come, unless the government steps in and has tort reform of some form in order to prevent lawsuits from happening. There's also saber rattling going on at certain state legislative levels that they're going to make the insurance companies pay business interruption claims for COVID-19, which would replace the revenue lost by businesses, right?
Right.
If that happens, you're going to see insurance companies, file bankruptcy in mass, quantities. I mean, it's just they're not equipped to pay for those claims. So the other thing too, Kansas, not just to ramble on, but I think this is a very good and big point. After 9/11, so the 2001, 2002, the government came out with the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, because again, insurance companies didn't want to cover terrorism losses at that point in time. Nobody knew really where terrorism was going to go. 9/11, was really, really huge shock to the world. It goes without saying. So the insurance companies said, nope, terrorism exclusions, we're not going to cover it. So the government stepped in with the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act and allowed consumers to buy into a government-backed insurance product in case there was future terrorist attacks. Now, we thankfully haven't seen that many, so that has not been tapped into. So the thought process is that Congress and the Senate are going to do the same thing as far as pandemics. So there'll probably be a pandemic risk insurance act that if the insurance companies aren't going to offer coverage in future, coverage forms and renewals for our clients, that they might be able to turn to the government to be able to buy business interruption coverage, liability coverage for pandemics.
Wow. That's really interesting. I mean, you never really understand or acknowledge all of the far-reaching implications that this is going to have on businesses and the long-term effects. Yeah. And I think it's not only going to affect businesses, but obviously, like you said, the government might have to step in, policies might need to be changed. Interesting. Let's just shift a little bit now and talk about drug-free workplaces and how that impacts policies, if at all. How is the landscape changing, for instance, with medical marijuana?
Yeah, Patrick and I were on the forefront of this when you compare ourselves to other Florida-based insurance agents, because we wrote accounts around the country, as you said in our intro. So we've been doing business in Colorado for a long time, and prior to it being fully legal, when it was just medical only. So the bottom line is that it's all based on what the company's employee handbook says and what their stance is on a drug-free workplace. For instance, we actually had this question yesterday from a client here in Florida. They hired a gentleman. He ended up tested positive for marijuana through the hiring process. And their position is they have a drug-free workplace. They're getting a credit on their workers' compensation policy of 5% for having a drug-free workplace. So we advise the client that you can't do for one and not do for the others, meaning that you can't onboard this guy and have him fail a drug test because you have a drug-free workplace.
Consistency. You
got to have consistency in whatever you're going to do. So even though Colorado it may be fully legal, just using Colorado as an example, because they were really the trailblazers in all of this. If you have a drug-free workplace, it's still federally legal, marijuana. It's still Schedule 1.
That's right.
So it's all based on what the company's policies and procedures are in order for drug-free workplace. Now, to take it a step further, we're seeing a lot of our clients take a step back from getting the 5% drug-free workplace in this credit in the state of Florida on their workers' comp, and just scrapping their drug-free workplaces altogether.
Wow.
Because they just see it as too much of a potential litigation piece to their business, because you're already starting to see cases go through courts at a state level, all state levels that have, medical marijuana or fully recreational marijuana, that, well, hey, I have my medical marijuana card, so therefore I should be able to work.
How can you fire me?
Et cetera. So a lot of them are going away from drug-free workplaces. And the other thing is too, Candace, is they have a tough time finding employees. That's what they're going back to, because somebody will say, oh, no, I don't use marijuana. And then they show up positive in a test result, and they may lose out on a potential good employee. So the marketplace is definitely changing, and attitudes are changing towards marijuana in general. But that's, it's a complex topic. We've done employee seminars on it, had employment law attorneys come in and speak to our clients, and a lot of it is clear as mud, because after legislation, right, usually after that comes litigation.
Right.
So that's what we're seeing now is we're seeing some of these folks that have been terminated and had their medical card turn and sue their employer. And so that's creating a whole other, set of issues.
I think so many of these things that you're talking about are things that business owners don't necessarily ever even think about, and until it's too late. And I think one of the services that you offer that's pretty invaluable is that you will come into a business and kind of do an audit of their
Correct.
Insurance policy. Can you talk a little bit about what that means and what that looks like?
Sure. It's our philosophy that, we're just not going to copy another insurance agent's work, right? Do you remember the days, high school days, grade school days? You copied off of somebody's paper, you may get an A or you may get an F. We can't get anything less than an A+ with what we do, because we're protecting people's assets at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, it's a big responsibility, and we're fiduciaries to their companies. So what we'll do is we'll get copies of their policies. We'll do a full policy review. We'll look at all the property limits, liability limits, automobile limits, et cetera. We'll come back with a deliverable product and presentation that is custom to their company, outlining the good, the bad, and the potential ugly within their insurance programs. There's a lot of times, Pat and I see it all the time. We were working on a restaurant
that didn't have liquor liability.
It was one of these, newer concept where you can pour your own beer. Yeah. And they had a exclusion on their policy specifically for pouring your own beer. So if somebody had left that establishment, gotten in a vehicle accident, and then turned and sued that bar or restaurant because of being overserved, they would have had no coverage. And of course, when the business owner found out about that, he was not very happy, to say the least. So it's not always about pricing, meaning that sometimes we can find price savings, sometimes we can't. But what we can do is look to make sure their coverage is copacetic, that everything is in it where it needs to be. And insurance isn't the savior to everything. I mean, our client may have a risk tolerance where they're willing to take a lot more on risk-wise and not insure certain things, which is okay too. But we have very open risk management discussions with our clients and prospective clients. Our goal is ultimately to be considered a trusted advisor, no different than their attorney, no different than their CPA. we want to be at the table with those folks, because in this day and age, there's so many different risks. As you just said, Candace, a lot of business owners don't contemplate all of it. And so that's our job to keep it, front of mind for them, and at least have a discussion. And if they want to assume the risk, great. If they want to transfer it to an insurance company, equally great.
Well, you'd be surprised too at what you find, when we do these analysis and audits, things that, properties, they're paying for, a piece of property in another state that they haven't had for 8 years, but they're still paying for it. Autos that, they haven't had for 5 years, they're still paying for it, all kinds of stuff. So it's, the things that we find under the hood once we get in there and look is sometimes, pretty crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. You mentioned risk management and attorneys, and I think another service that I would love to talk about, a lot of times business owners will send contracts that they have with trade partners or other partners to their attorney for review. You actually recommend that they send that to their insurance provider as well for review, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, correct. We're obviously not attorneys, but with that said, we always look at the insurance clauses within the contracts, hopefully before our clients sign them. We talk to our clients and say, listen, if you're, especially on the construction side, everything is contractual risk transfer now, meaning that, companies are trying to push liability, away from themselves and sometimes to our clients, and vice versa. Our clients pushing to maybe a subcontractor if they're a general contractor. So taking a look at the insurance clauses, making sure that the insurance contract itself, because an insurance policy at the end of the day is a contract. It's a legally binding contract, mirrors what the contract that our client may be signing. So that's important. You want to make sure that you're not obligating yourself to something that your insurance policy won't cover, and unfortunately we see it a lot where contracts are signed and then our customer may not know really what they signed, and then we've got to go and unwind that. So the more upfront that we can get those, the more we can negotiate the terms, the better off our clients will be.
Interesting. You mentioned compliance. So I want to just pivot a little bit and talk about what you see inside companies in terms of compliance, OSHA awareness, and like standard operating procedures. What do you see where that's concerned, and how can you help in that realm?
Yeah, absolutely. We have an entire, what I call loss control team. What they do for us is, and our clients, is they go and perform site surveys. They help, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about this, I think, a little further down the line here, but disaster planning, anything from COVID procedures now, that type of thing. So they definitely work with our clients when it comes to OSHA, because OSHA can do and does do inspections of our clients. And if there's any major accidents that may have happened on the site, a job site or whatever, OSHA gets involved. God forbid a death claim, which we've had several of those. We act as an advocate, working in conjunction with our client to work with OSHA to not only correct maybe any violations, but God forbid there's a fine, right? And there's our clients are staring down something that could be 6 figures or higher in a fine from OSHA. We work with our clients and OSHA to negotiate that down as much as possible, because compliance is big. And don't get me wrong, OSHA has a great purpose, but they're also generating revenue for themselves, it's important that we're here to help our clients should they need us when it comes to that compliance standpoint.
I think when most people talk about loss control, you mentioned that a second ago, they think immediately of theft, but what else should they be considering?
Well, I think with loss control, there's a lot of different facets, but the one that we see mostly, there's two. and I know we're going to talk a little bit about auto coming up, but fleet safety, if you have a lot of public liability. So, think of a stadium. Well, back when we could go to stadiums, right? But, think about slips, trips, and falls, looking for things that would prevent a slip or fall, because you see those lawsuits all the time where, your premises was not safe. I slipped and fell, and now you have to pay for, not only my medical injuries, but, pain and suffering and emotional distress and all these other things that can come along with that. So our loss control team will go and work with the safety directors of whether it's a manufacturer, a contractor, even up to an aquarium. We do a lot of public liability, or maybe a casino or gambling, type of business. So we'll work in conjunction with them to take a look, not only that the premises is safe, we'll go do walkthroughs through their kitchens looking for potential fire threats, because we've had actually through COVID, since March, 2 fire losses. So to be able to have a team that can be dispatched even after the fact and before the fact, to try to help our clients in through those issues is huge. But yeah, a lot of people do think theft when it's loss control, and we do look at some theft related stuff, but mostly what we're looking for is liability driven exposures and anything that could adversely infect the structure, building structure.
Interesting. So, we talked in the very beginning about COVID-19 and whether losses are covered by insurance. So that kind of just makes me want to ask you, for business owners, other like acts of God, how prepared do you think most businesses are for acts of God, like, weather disasters, earthquakes, hailstorms, things like that? And if they're not prepared, what should they be doing?
Sure. I think over time, businesses are getting wiser to having disaster plans and to do pre-planning, especially when you look at the state of Florida. You remember in the 2000s, Candace, when it was like the Hurricane of the Month Club, kind of a little bit like it is now, right?
Except Florida.
Yeah, except not Florida. Florida was
So
like
far.
in the target range all through the 2000s. So I think during that time, there was a lot of focus on disaster planning. There was a lot of focus on what do we do if there's a storm out there that they say is in the box, that's going to be imminent to hit us, whether you're an auto dealer, a manufacturer, construction, retail. How am I going to fortify my business? How am I going to move product to safer, grounds? And I think too, we preach a lot about the best defense is a good offense. So the more information you have offsite regarding your business, talking pictures, asset lists, pictures of the premises and stuff. Now, my brother here, another value-added service that we provide is drone site surveys.
Oh, wow.
So, drone footage of the property, of what it looked like. Because at claim time, what we've learned, and we learned a lot, not only all the way back from Hurricane Andrew to Hurricane Charlie, et cetera, is the companies that have their information all set up and ready to go at claim time, their claim goes all the way to the top of the pile, versus a company that just say, oh, my asset list is over here, or geez, does anybody have photos of the property, that aren't as organized? Their claim will go to the bottom. And when these claims stack up, you're talking about tens of thousands of claims. So the more that you can put into it up front, the better off you're going to be, should there be a claim, whether it's a hail, tornado, fire, windstorm event, and so I'm happy with the progress. We got a long way to go. There's still businesses that think, well, this won't happen to us. Well, I've been in Florida for 40 years and we've never had a claim. Yeah, but it could be the 41st year that you do.
Right.
Hurricane Irma, we all remember, just ripped right up the state of Florida. all the way through the Keys, all the way up to, the Swanee River Valley and everywhere in between. So there was a lot of businesses impacted.
I'm gonna go off script for a minute, and you talked about offense, defense, and stadiums, and I just wanted to throw this out there. Tomorrow, the Bucks play the Broncos out here in Colorado. I know you guys are, spend a lot of time in Colorado, so I know you must be sort of Broncos fans, but I know you're Bucks fans. Who are you rooting for in the big game?
Steelers.
Nope, you got to pick one, Bucks or Broncos.
I'd probably have to go with the Bucks.
Well, Candace, I will fully disclose I'm a Bucks fan. Growing up here in Sarasota. But with that said, I have been to a Denver Broncos game before when Peyton Manning played, and I thought it was great. I wish they weren't playing the Broncos because I am a closet Broncos fan, but I got to go with my new buddy Tom Brady and the Bucks.
Okay. They are allowing 5,700 spectators to be in the stadium tomorrow. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, it will be.
All right. Going back to the serious stuff. So last question for you guys. Given the increasing cost of auto and fleet coverage, a lot of companies have their own fleet vehicles. What do you recommend to mitigate liability exposure when it comes to that?
Yeah, it's a big topic that I'll try to shrink down for us. But on our commercial fleet of vehicles and for our customers, and we write some very, very large fleets, mostly in the contracting side. So, the big trend is, and has been for a while, is, well, I'm going to wrap my vehicle and make it a billboard, by the way, which is great. It's great marketing, great advertising, but it also becomes a target. Because if that vehicle is in an at-fault accident, we're seeing, 9 out of 10 claims litigated, especially if it's a commercial vehicle, because they see, XYZ company, I'm gonna make some money. I'm gonna get an insurance.
Nice trucks.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing, and we're also seeing an uptick in fraud, auto fraud. Especially down in Dade and Broward counties here in Florida, but also big metropolitan areas and big cities and other other areas of the country where we have accounts. So, again, best defense is a good offense. So most of our clients, I'd say the vast majority, all their vehicles now have GPS on them. So they can monitor the driver's speed, where they're at, et cetera. A lot of them are starting to look at dashboard cameras to help limit liability, because they'll show you exactly what happened, at accident time. When you look at a couple of years ago, State Farm Insurance paid out like $8 billion in auto losses. It was a big number. So when that happens, they do two things. The insurance companies, they increase rates and they scrutinize drivers. So we spend a lot of time doing driver safety. Pat and I can teach the courses. Our loss control team can teach the courses. I'm a certified risk manager. So we spend a lot of time educating the drivers of our clients. And I always will say, because the employees go, well, what's in it for me? Well, what's in it for them is employability. If you do not have a good driving record, you're not going to get a job, especially if you have to drive. In any capacity, the insurance companies are excluding drivers at a rate I've never seen in my 24-year career.
Wow.
And so to take it a step further, I preach to my kids. I have a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old who will be driving next year. She's got her learner's permit now, scary enough. But I say to them, guys, and we say this to the employees of our clients, you need to go home, take this message home and talk to your kids. Because if my son gets out of Florida State, go Noles. Candace, I know where you stand there, but we'll leave that to the side. But if he gets out of college and he's candidate A and he's got a terrible driving record or one that's borderline, and candidate B has got a clean driving record and all things are equal, my son's not going to get hired. Candidate B will. So it's that important that people realize that their actions behind the wheels really can dictate what they're going to be paying, or even if they can drive in this day and age, because the litigation's not going away. I mean, all you have to do is turn on your television, right? Have you been hurt in an auto accident? Give me a call. And every attorney's like, well, I'm the hammer. I get the most money. And people are looking at that and doing it, unfortunately. Gone are the days are you get in an accident, you trade insurance information, and you say, hey, I'm going to make this right. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Yeah, you trade insurance information nowadays, and we just wait for the lawsuits to come in, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that has been such great information. Honestly, we're almost out of time, but I really want to thank you for giving that information to business owners. And I think it's critical, especially with what everyone's going through right now. The big thing too, I think people want to do business with people that they know and people who, or that their friends know. So I just want to give you guys a personal shout out, because I've known you both for very many years, and you're both dedicated, family men and committed to the community. And so before we go, would you mind just sharing a little bit about yourselves personally? And, you support the community in so many different ways. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you like to do for fun, and how you support the community.
Well, thank you. I think you and I met through the community involvement that we both were in. And I think that's one of Keith and I's, probably one of our biggest things that we do. Nobody works harder. We're out 2, 3, 4. Well, we used to be out 2, 3, 4 nights a week. Now it's like one, if we can find an event to go to. But I think the community involvement that we're involved with, from either a political standpoint or from a healthcare standpoint, which we're both involved with, in the various foundations that we help throughout the country. And I think, anybody in this day and age, if you're out there and you're dealing at the C-suite level and in larger companies, you need to be involved in the community, because they see that as well. The clients see that, and they're involved as well. So we partner with a lot of our clients in various, networking events or causes, or you name it. And whether it's political or social or helping families throughout the country like we do. I think, I don't know how you do without it.
Yeah, no, I one of our core values at CBIZ is we do the right thing, right? If you go to our website and take a look, it's on there. And the right thing to do, and it was really taught by my parents, that you get involved in the community. I mean, if you're living in especially with me growing up in Sarasota, it's your job to give back. And that's just at the core of what we've always done. As Pat said, whether it's sitting on a foundation board or, we have a wealth of nonprofits as clients too. So whether it's sponsorships or volunteering for events, and I'll take it a step further, because pre-COVID, we were out a lot, right? Yeah. And, that can sacrifice family time at home, right? So we made it a point over the past several years to bring our kids with us to events where it was appropriate to do so that they could understand the importance of giving back to the community, in hopes that in the future that they'll catch that flick, whether they live in Sarasota or live in Denver or, live in New York, that they get involved in the community. And it's the right thing to do. And it makes you feel good at the end of the day. We really get a kick out of it. And it's just something that we'll always do, as long as we're working together and are still on this planet, there's no question.
Yeah. The COVID thing is really, we're not wired to, be at home every night and not being out and getting involved and doing things. So, I mean, you can do so much on Zoom or whatever, but there's nothing like getting out there and meeting people face to face and having a conversation and learning about what they're excited about and what they're doing in the community and what they're passionate about. I mean, I think that's, I always tell people, especially the younger guys that are coming up and ladies, that, what do you do? what are you excited about? What are you passionate about? And get involved. Try to get on a nonprofit board, and get involved in, if you see a race for government, fundraising event or whatever, go and get involved and meet those people that are there, because those are the people that are leaders in your community, and they're already out there and they've got a network. And just don't be afraid to walk up to them and say, hey, I'm new. This is, first event that I'm at, and just start talking to people. And it goes a long way. They see it, and I think it's important, and it gets you out and about and, meeting people.
Yeah. Candace, one more thing. I mean, honestly, we're just trying to keep up with you.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I mean, what you've been able to do out west, never mind what you accomplished here in Sarasota and still are accomplishing here in Sarasota or Atlanta. I mean, we're trying to keep up. All right. Cut us a break.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I can't wait till I can come back and come see your new office in person. And just want to remind everybody too, if you want to get in touch with Keith or Patrick, their email addresses are scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And I know you're inviting people up to visit with you in your new office space. You have a really cool space where you can have an event if events ever get back open again, and just take in that gorgeous view of the bay. So I would definitely.
Yeah, the view in Sarasota is not so bad.
Yeah, that's where
we don't have any fires over here like you guys over there. When we came into town, we couldn't even see the mountains. So we're looking forward to getting back, and probably here in another month or two, getting back to Denver. And when we do, we'll certainly look you up.
Awesome. Well, thanks again so much, you guys. This was great information, and we will repost it again on our social channels, but really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Candace.
Thanks, Candace. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.